What's up, YouTube? Capital G. Gonna tell you guys and talk about this top 8 deck that we saw at YCS Seattle Tacoma. It was piloted by both Julian Wong and Simon He. Both are from Team United Gustus, if I am not mistaken. So it kind of has a little bit of a maybe a European theme to it. Now, I told you guys that it wasn't really crazy about agents as a deck per se, but again, this was a West Coast event in California. You know, agents are huge. They're just big on the West Coast in general, so it does not surprise me that the deck did well, despite the fact I'm not really in love with it. Now, both of these decks were pretty much piloted identically. From what I can see, they're pretty much the same exact extra or main deck per se. I think the extra decks are the same too. There probably is a difference in side decks. That's just going to boil down to player preference, but it looks like this was basically more of a chaos version. This wasn't like what Alistair Albans ran, where, you know, you're running the 3-card troopers, double Kristya, and Call of the Haunted to bring everything back. So anyways, let's go ahead. We've got the Hyperion set, 3 Hyperion, 3 Venus, 2 Agent Earth, 3 Mystic Shine Balls. We got the Chaos Brothers of Destruction, Chaos Sorcerer BLS, another good boss monster in here, 1 copy of Kristya, 2 Thunder Kings, Spirit Reaper, and then we've got the Tour Guide engine, which is 2 Tour Guides and a Sangan. Hand traps galore in this deck because he only wants 1 main deck trap in it. We've got 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Maxx, 2 Tragoedia, Honest, 1 Gorz, and Herald of the Orange Light. So basically, if it was a hand trap in Yu-Gi-Oh!, this dude threw it in there. Or these dudes, should I say. Mind Control, Heavy Storm, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, the Trinity, as many people call that. 3 MSTs and a Forbidden Lance, kind of like back row hate. And then we have Monster Control with Enemy Controller and 1 Creature Swap. The last card in the deck is the only trap solo, is Treacherous Trapple. First thing I noticed about this deck was that he was running Econ and Creature Swap. Now, this makes sense because it answers the immortal question of what the hell do you do with those Mystic Shine Balls if you don't have access to Kristya? Or what do you do with that extra Shine Ball when you make your Gachi play? This kind of answers that question. Not to mention, it gives you extra utility for your Venus and your Earths when you've already used up their utility earlier in the game, like you've already used your Shine Ball. So now your opponent may have a monster. You can summon that 3rd Mystic Shine Ball, exceed for Gachi, then creature swap it into, you know, in attack mode to your opponent, take their good monster, or you can just econ it away and, you know, attack through or whatever, so on and so forth. It also gives you other options to not only stop attacks, but again, if you have like a Venus or an Earth, and you know you aren't going to get really any big plays out of those, you can just summon them, tribute them for econ, take your opponent's monster, then banish that monster, then play Hyperion. The hand traps galore make a lot of sense. Herald of the Orange Light is a card that I think people really fell in love with, but if you're not running double Kristya, I'm not really sure that you should be running more than 2 copies of. I mean, it's really great in essence, but you will lose hand advantage really relatively quickly in this deck, and that can be a problem. Maxx is excellent in this deck. I advocate running Maxx in multiples in any deck that runs Tragoedia. It just makes perfect sense. The odds of you getting OTK'd through Tragoedia is very difficult, and you play decks like Wind-Ups and they're just like, I'm just going to keep activating, I'm just going to keep special summoning, blah 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 blah, and you're just like, you drop a Tragoedia on them and what can they do? I also think it was pretty interesting that he only ran 1 trap in this deck, which makes absolute sense. I mean, we've talked about it before, the whole no back row concept. It makes sense of, you want to make your opponent's MSTs, you want to make your opponent's Forbidden Lances, you want to make your opponent's Heavy Storms absolutely dead, so why not just play, you know, the 1 optimal trap, which would be Treacherous Trapple if you're just going to run 1 trap. It's chainable, it kills 2 monsters, so generally speaking, it's probably going to have the same effect of a Dark Hole. They don't have to be face up, and he runs every other hand trap you could think of, so even with him without him running Torrentials and Mirror Forces and stuff, it's going to be difficult to get to his life points. So this is a version of agents that I prefer. I like being able to, you know, have cards like Tragoedia, knowing that if I open with, you know, a semi-cluttered hand where maybe I have Hyperion but I don't have agents, I don't just lose because I have monsters like Tragos, I've got my Gorz, I have Spirit Reaper where I can stall, I've got cards like Rai-Oh where I have good opening plays that don't involve me having Venus or Earth. So that was another thing I liked about this deck. Spirit Reaper and Rai-Oh give this deck the utility to have a kind of a good turn 1 play if you don't have either one of the agents. If you don't have Tour Guide, it gives you, okay, well, summon Rai-Oh, you know, maybe set like Forbidden Land. Like, that's a pretty good opening play. Set Spirit Reaper. It's very difficult to get through that. I mean, even Dino Rabbit with Lagi Adoka, that doesn't really do anything against a Reaper. Even if your opponent tries to shock lock you, that's stopped by Reaper. Your opponent's only real odd outs to that is like, you know, an Insector play with Hornet or something like that. So overall, definitely a good deck. And want to know what you guys think about it. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll talk to you later.